Hello and welcome back to the course. On this lesson we'll be developing the third scene of our animation. Right-click on the project window, New Composition. Name it Scene 3. Select the preset we've been using up to now. In this case the duration will be 4 seconds and 10 frames. OK. Right-click New Solid. Name it Background, make it white and lock it. We'll start by going to the Rectangle tool. Double-click. We need to remove the fill and set the stroke to 20 pixels. In the rectangle path inside Contents, we can adjust the size by first removing the Constraint Proportions option. Make it 1110 pixels wide and 2090 pixels high. We'll now create an animation using Trim Paths. Click on Add to find this effect. We'll go right to the beginning and add a keyframe to start. Go 20 frames forwards to add another keyframe. Back to start, set it to 100%. Select both keyframes, right-click Keyframe Assistant Easy Ease, and there's our effect. Ctrl D twice to duplicate the rectangle. To the first rectangle, we'll apply this color code. This one for the second. And we'll leave the third one as it is. I now have 3 strokes repeated, but you can't see them because they are covered by the layer on top. Select all 3 of them and press U to see the keyframes. Move this one up to frame 3. And this one to frame 6. Let's preview and now you can see the other strokes. Make these rectangles orange to distinguish them. Ctrl D to duplicate and put these on top of the others. Make them blue. Ctrl D again. Place them above the previous ones and make them green, for example. Go to frame 9 and take these to frame 18. Let's take a look. It looks the same basically, but we need to change the position. These 3 are going to go on top. And these are going to go underneath. I'm pressing Shift as I move them so they move in a straight line. Now preview and this is what we get. The next step is to create a text. Go to the text tool and click where you want to type. I'll type Photoshop. With the Align panel, align to the composition and horizontal align center text Verdana font bold 105 pixels. We want it right in the center, so adjust it slightly. So now we're going to create an animation on the position, but we won't do that from the Transform panel. We'll do it using a separate command. Go to this option here, Animate, and select Position. Let's see what options we have. Obviously, position on the X and Y axis, a range selector, which we'll use when we adjust the position. On the y-axis, we put -270, so our text goes up, As you can see, it's up here, but the anchor point has stayed in place. If you set the offset to 100%, this is what it does to our animation. Set it back. In advanced options, you see that the composition is based on characters, which is why if we add a keyframe here and another one at frame 20 and set the offset to 100%, we get this animation, letter by letter. You could also base it on words, so one hyphen would come down first, then the word Photoshop, then the other hyphen. But in this case, we'll set it to characters. Select both, right-click, Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease. When we preview it, however, the animation is a little rough. So in our advanced options, go to Shape and select Ramp Up. And set the ease high and low to 50% to smoothen the animation. The problem is that our text is now here, so in offset we need to put a negative number. Let's put -80. Let's see. There we go. This word Photoshop belongs to this rectangle, so let's move it and place it on top of the orange rectangles. Ctrl D to duplicate the text and place this on top of the blue rectangles. Click on it and drag it down while holding Shift so it moves in a straight line. And change the words to Illustrator. Again, Ctrl D to duplicate. Place this on top of the green rectangles, which are the bottom ones. Select the text, drag it down while pressing Shift, and I'll type After Effects. You can change the names of these layers. Text 1, this is text 2, text 3. Preview, and this is the animation so far. The problem is that at this point we can see the text, so we need to place a rectangle above and make it an alpha matte so it hides them. We'll do this by duplicating the last rectangle in each group. So for example, for the Photoshop, we'd select this one at the bottom. Ctrl D and place it on top of the text. Name it Matte 1. Click on Toggle Switches to get the Alpha Matte options. Let's select it and see what happens. Nothing. Why? Because this rectangle needs to have a fill. Okay, and there we go. But there's still a tiny problem here where the letters are going through the stroke. So we remove that too. But we still have a problem. So what we can do is select both and put them underneath. Like this. Okay, much better. Moving on to the second text, we'll do the same. Ctrl D to duplicate. Place it above the text and rename it to Matte 2, Alpha Matte, and place them underneath. There seems to be a problem here. Why is that? Because of the keyframes. Remove the stroke. Press U to see the keyframes. And we'll get rid of these keyframes. And there we go. We'll also get rid of the keyframes on this alpha matte. Press U to see them. Select them and delete. And now to the last one. Ctrl D to duplicate. Place it above the text. Name it Matte 3. Press U and remove the keyframes from the end. Remove the stroke and add a fill. Mat Alpha again. Select them and place them under the rectangles. Let's take a look. There's another little problem here. It's mainly because the rectangle appears from here, and the text is animated around here. So we just need to adjust the position of these keyframes here. Select the three texts, press U. There we have the keyframes. Select the keyframes of the text number 1 and place them at frame 15. Now take the keyframes from the second text and go to second 1, frame 5. And the last ones, select them and go to second 1, frame 25. This is what it looks like. I think the rectangles appear a little too quickly, so we need to adjust the position on the timeline. Select the blue rectangles and move them to around here. Select the green ones and move them a bit further on. Let's see. Now the rectangles appear a little slower, much better. Press U to close the keyframes. And now we're going to add those ticks that appear next to each rectangle. We'll use the pen tool for this. Zoom in. Click and we have our tick. You can adjust it to however you want. This is the color I'm using. If you want to copy it, make sure it has no fill. Make the stroke 25 pixels. Now we're going to animate it. Let's add a Tim path effect. Go to End and add a keyframe. And another one 20 frames further. And 100%. Select both keyframes, right-click Keyframe Assistant Easy Ease, and let's take it to around second 1. We want it to show up just when the text finishes. Press U to see the keyframes. Okay, this is where the text tick will go. Ctrl D to duplicate it. U. Move it forward. Ctrl D to duplicate again. U. And move the keyframes forward. Let's see what we have. Okay, we need to move the ticks so they appear in the right places. Move tick number 2 down to the second rectangle and number 3 down to the last rectangle. Preview, and now the ticks appear next to each rectangle. Now we're going to add a camera to our composition to get an effect of movement, and then we'll make it disappear. Go to Layer, New, Camera. Leave it at 35mm. Okay. So cameras don't affect 2D layers unless we press this option here to activate the 3D. We'll apply this to all of the layers except the background, which is locked. We can make adjustments here in the camera to get the animation we want. You have various options up here. We'll select the Track Z tool. Next to it is the letter C. That means if you press C on the keyboard, then all of these camera options alternate. So we are on the track Z. Take the timeline to the first frame. Go to the camera options and add a keyframe to the position. Then go to second 3, frame 10. Now click and drag down like I'm doing to get this effect. Now go to second 4, frame 8. Press C twice to get the orbit option. Click and drag to the right while holding down Shift, and it goes around like this. Press C again twice and we'll increase the size like this. And this is what we get. Let's just reduce it slightly. Select the 3 keyframes, right-click, Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease. And there we go. We can add a small effect with the graph editor to make the animation start faster. Press Shift and drag this anchor point to the left. And the same for this one here. And these ones at the end towards the middle. And that's our animation, and our third scene is done. In the next lesson we'll carry on with scene 4.